For you tape heads out there, I have a Nakamichi in this one. This one was shipped in. It has a problem. It doesn't play, according to the notes that I got from the person that sent it to me. He picked it up, it worked for a while, now it's got a problem, so we're going to see if we can figure out what's wrong with this one. He suspects it might be the motor. This Nakamichi DR3 was shipped in from a viewer from back east. He bought it at a thrift shop, it worked for a bit, and then it died. So he says it doesn't work at all now. Let's see what went wrong with it. Okay, first top us off the unit. We'll do a quick inspection. Look for anything obvious. I don't see any caps that are bulging on the top or anything. So first things first, let's try powering the unit up and see what happens. So it turns on. I hear a motor run there. I don't feel any motor turning on the capstan. Is the capstan motor bad? We'll put a tape in and see whether the unit attempts to move. And if the capstan motor attempts to run. Okay, we'll try fast forward and rewind. See if they move. Fast forward and rewind. Moves the tape. Okay, try play. And of course it's now going to play. Isn't that strange? Maybe we've got a dead spot on the motor. Oh, wait a minute, it just stopped. Push play. And it stops. Okay, so it's shutting down. Let's see why it's doing it. First of all, let's see if we get any sound out of it. So hooked up to the amplifier. Okay, it's playing, but it did stop. Several times there it stopped. I wonder if it's a take-up idler is slipping. Curious as to whether I wasn't watching it when it stopped. I just saw that it shut off. So I just want to monitor the take-up spool, see whether the take-up spool is slipping, because that would certainly cause it to go into a shutdown. Oh, I didn't touch it. It just did that on its own. It kind of shifted into fast forward and then stopped. We'll start it again. I was just pointing at it. I have a feeling it's maybe a switch. There, you see? It just did it again. I have a sneaking suspicion that there's a switch that's acting up on this one. If you're working on a VCR, you'd immediately say mode switch. Well, these have a mode switch. Very similar to a mode switch. It's got 3 leaf switches right here. And they operate, they're called cam switches. If I turn the unit around so you guys can see it, when I load a tape, if we watch the operation, you'll see that these switches actually activate to provide feedback to the microprocessors to what the machine is doing. So if I push play, for example, we will see that these switches, the cam will rotate and it indicates to the microprocessor what it is doing. I bet you one of these switches is bad. And it's not making a good connection. I bet you that's what the problem with this one is we've got bad contacts. So I'm going to clean these switches up and see if that solves my problem. There are many ways, of course, to clean the switches on these. I could take the mechanism out. That's one option, to pull the entire mechanism, take the switch out. But that's not necessarily the best thing to do, because the more you disturb a mechanism, the more chances that other problems could happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some paper. I'm going to soak it in contact cleaner, and we're going to insert it between the contacts and just use the paper as like a paper file, for lack of better terms, just to wipe the contacts off. So to get at that, to make that easy, I'm just going to cut this wire tie that's right here. so that I can get some of the wires out of the way, and then I can get a little bit better access to get in here. Cut this other wire tie down here too. So that I can get a little bit of slack so I can work on the switch assembly. So what I've done is I've inserted some paper between the contacts that has been soaked in cleaner, and I'm just going to move the paper back and forth a bit using my dental pick, and this will remove some of the oxidation that may have formed on these switch contacts, and I'll put a bit of pressure on them as I do this. This will try to keep the contacts together, and as I drag the paper out, you'll see that there's actually quite a bit of gunge that was on those switches, so that's a very good chance that there's where our fault is right there, just from oxidation forming on the 3 switches. That's more than likely what our fault was. So I'll give them another shot of cleaner just to make sure that the contacts stay clean. There is another switch up front here, which probably wouldn't hurt to clean this one. I think this is the one that just detects when there's a tape in place. There's a switch up front here that detects when there's a tape in place, and that also could be, if it goes open when there's a tape in, it will think that the tape has been removed and it'll shut it down. So we'll clean this one as well using the same process. The switch in the front, however, it's a normally open or normally closed switch, so when the tape is in, it pushes it open. So I don't think that one would cause the problems that we were experiencing, because when there's a tape in place, that switch is normally open and it's not going to close if there's a tape in it. Okay, we'll try this again, see whether it's still shutting down or whether it's going to play the tape properly now. Any questions? I'll let this play just for a while. I'll even leave the camera run for a bit while it's playing. But I think the answer is pretty clear that that was our problem. It was just the contacts on those switches were dirty, and they're now clean. And it's now playing. So I'm going to let this continue to play through the tape. I'm pretty confident it's going to be fine, and that's all that the fault was on this one. So when you have one of these decks and it's doing weird things like stopping and not playing, check the 3 leaf switches behind here, because it is an ongoing problem. Now, I knew this as soon as I saw the symptom. As soon as I saw what it was doing, I wanted to verify that the take-up spool was not stopping, because if the take-up spool stops, obviously it's going to shut down. So I wanted to verify that it wasn't stopping. But as soon as I saw that it wasn't stopping, I knew exactly what it is. Having been an authorized Nakamichi servicer back in the 80s, I saw lots of issues like this. So this is not something, like, this is not my first rodeo as far as this fault goes. This is a very, very common fault on these units. If you haven't seen one, then you're just lucky. Decks that were heavily used, generally this didn't happen, because the contacts, when you're changing modes, the switches are opening and closing, and of course just the action of the switches opening and closing all the time keeps them clean. But if they've been sitting around for any length of time and they haven't been used, especially if they're in an area where the humidity can get relatively high, you get oxidation on those contacts, and then you get intermittent connections, and you get an intermittent connection and the microprocessor doesn't read it properly. It's no different than the mode switch on a VCR. Exactly the same thing. This is doing the same thing. It is a mode switch. It's reading the position of the cam. It could be a rotary switch or a series of switches. Hell, some VCRs even use pin switches that are activated by the cam, which work exactly the same way as they do on DAT machines. any of these mechanical machines, they require feedback to the microprocessor to tell them what's going on and what position the mechanism's in. When that happens, you end up with intermittent problems and strange problems like this, where this one here would play and then stop. And when it stopped, it kind of went into, I think it was fast forward for a second and then stopped. Anyway, this is the type of issues you get with these switches. So when you see this, you know where you're headed. A very, very simple repair. I've just probably saved people a bunch of headaches with their Nakamichi decks. Very common on these DR3s that use this type of mechanism. Very common. There it is. It's finished its playback and it's on auto repeat. So I've had it running here now for the past, I guess, about 3 hours. And what it does is once it gets to the end of the tape, it rewinds it automatically and then replays it. So I've just been leaving the unit run all afternoon here while I was doing other stuff like editing the last video and putting it up. Now it's going to start playing again. This is probably 5 or 6 times this tape has gone through. We're going to check the speed out. Check the calibration of the speed. Oops, I got to stop it because it's in auto repeat. We'll just turn that off. We'll do a speed check and see how accurate the speed is adjusted, and then get it ready to get sent home. Speed-wise, it's very close. A little bit sharp, but that's okay because we can adjust it. On the back, you'll see there's a couple holes on the back of the motor. It's this one here. So we're going to insert a number. This is a 000 little Phillips. And we adjust it. Get it exactly correct. I know that's exactly correct because my deck that this tape was recorded on is a certified calibration deck. It's a direct drive quartz lock motor and it is exactly correct. And I have 2 of them and both of them are both certified and they both show exactly the same frequency. If we look at the tone generator, we can verify that the guitar tuner is exactly on frequency. So there's the guitar tuner, and we'll put the tape deck on too. There's the tape deck. Oh, listen to that. That's how close they are. I got them both running. And you can hear just a very slight tone going back and forth, left to right. That's how close we are. Doesn't get much closer than that. So to keep things accurate, the test tone on the tape, it was generated using Audacity, 440 hertz, and it was recorded on my calibrated deck. This one I think was recorded on my JVC calibrated deck, but the other tape that I have here was recorded on my Technics calibrated deck that was certified with a frequency counter and a factory alignment tape. And being quartz lock, they never change. They're always going to be correct, unless the quartz oscillator were to go bad. But both of them are calibrated, so I know they're accurate. The tape that was recorded on my deck is playing back perfectly at the correct speed on this one, and we verified it with a function generator. So this is correct speed. I guess the only thing I need to do now is we'll do a quick test recording on this unit and then get it out of here. Actually, I could check the 3 kilohertz for azimuth. I doubt that it's going to be out though, because it doesn't look like anybody's ever been in here monkeying around with it. The paint looks like it's still sealed, but we'll check the 3 kilohertz as well. If we look down here at the head, you'll see that the paint seals are still on the head. Nobody's ever monkeyed with this one, so I don't think we need to even bother checking the azimuth on it. I'm not gonna adjust it. It's still factory set. The only time that the head azimuth ever really needs to be adjusted is if the head's been replaced or somebody's been in there screwing around with it. When it's set at the factory, They generally don't change, again, unless someone's given it a helping hand. The only time I've ever had to do alignments on cassette decks, or reel-to-reel for that matter, is A, if we've changed the head, or B, if someone's been in there dicking around with it trying to make it better, thinking that the factory setting isn't good enough. Okay, we'll do one more test before buttoning this one up. We're going to do a record test, and like always, we'll play it right back directly into the camera. So I'm going to put it into record. I've already set my record levels. I've got it set in Dolby B. Should we do it in Dolby C? Why not? Let's do it in Dolby C. Okay, let me start the music playing. So I got my levels peaking at about +3. Type 2 tape, Dolby C. I'm not adjusting the bias or anything. I've got everything just set to 12 o'clock. My controls, I've checked them. They're clean. There's no noise on the controls. We'll play this back into the camera once it records. We'll see how good it sounds. Okay, that does it for this one. It's done. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.